Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join me, Mark White, here on GB News. For more than 2 decades, I've been at the sharp end of reporting crime and security at home and abroad. From the scourge of terrorism to the fight against violent crime and the deepening small boats crisis in the Channel. They're issues you rightly care about, and so do I. As GB News Home and Security Editor, my focus will be on the stories that matter to you.
Hello. Since I started this show earlier this year at the launch of GB News, I've welcomed a host of newsmakers from the worlds of politics, showbiz and sport for an interview with a difference, where they get to let loose in a way no other channel will allow, and you get to ask the questions you really want answered. Here's what happened when the likes of Thomas Markle, Roger Daltry, Don McLean and Sarah Palin sat down for the big question. We always like welcoming a legend, especially an outspoken one. In the slightly wild early days of the GB News launch, The Who's lead singer Roger Daltry joined me to give his perfect take on woke culture, including how today's youth don't seem to enjoy themselves, but rather seem to look for reasons to be offended. Look, speaking of young people, Roger, in a different sense, you have been a critic of woke culture, as am I. And interestingly, you think that the younger generations could actually be stifling themselves creatively. You've said it's terrifying, the miserable world they're going to create for themselves. I mean, anyone who's lived a life and you see what they're doing, you just know that it's a route to nowhere. Explain a little bit what you meant by that in terms of woke culture today.
You know, well, I just feel, where's humour? Well, they've forgotten about humour. If you're going to micromanage every emotion you ever have, and you're, live in fear of upsetting someone, of being objectionable, we all have the right to be objectionable to anyone we meet, and if you're offended, fine, get over it.
One of my favourite regular guests is Strictly Come Dancing's head judge, Shirley Ballas. During this interview, she spoke about the impact COVID has had on the BBC series and whether I should shake it up on the dance floor. Let me tell you something for free. They actually asked me once, and it was a big, fat hell no. That is never going to happen. This is great from Molly in Doncaster, but there's a bit of a Freudian slip here, Shirley. I have to warn you. So Molly from Doncaster asks, would you ever do panto again? Isn't that how you met your husband? But he's not quite your husband yet, right? Not quite.
Molly, darling, that is a wonderful question, but I've been married twice and I'm not married at the moment. I do have a lovely boyfriend, and yes, I would love to do panto. And that's another thing that seems iffy at the moment. The one I was going to do in Blackpool has been cancelled, so I'm not sure I'll get to do panto this year, but watch this space, Molly.
Dan Wootton here is, you've seen Dan, you've met him in the flesh. Is there any possibility on this planet that you could teach him to dance?
Never. Never. I've got 2 left feet, right?
Nor me.
You know that.
I can teach you, Dan. You have not got 2 left feet. I've been with you. You walk beautifully. You've got great deportment. You'd make a beautiful ballroom dancer. Absolutely. I'd take up that challenge.
After the success of the first Netflix series last year, which became somewhat synonymous with lockdown, Tiger King 2 graced our screens in the latter half of this year. But one woman who certainly wasn't happy about it at all was the big cat lady herself, Carole Baskin. Are you considering legal action against Netflix and the producers of The Tiger King?
I still have 3 years before the statute of limitations runs out, and I haven't given up on that idea because they did so much damage to me personally, to the sanctuary, and to the entire sanctuary movement. They painted all sanctuaries as being no different than these horrid zoos that you saw in Tiger King, and there couldn't be anything more different than a zoo and a sanctuary. Zoos are in the business of buying and breeding and selling and exploiting animals. Sanctuaries are in the business of trying to put ourselves out of business because we don't want to have to rescue animals from horrible situations. There just shouldn't be horrible situations. No. And that's why we're working on a federal bill that would ban the private ownership and ban the cub petting.
It's so ironic in a way, isn't it? Tiger King makes you one of the most famous women in the world. However, you've also said it sort of ruined your life. So now that you've had a year to reflect, where do you stand? Do you still feel like you were hoodwinked by the show?
Oh, absolutely. We were told that we were working for 5 years with the producers on a show that was going to be called Stolen Wildlife. That would be the equivalent of Blackfish for big cats. And if you guys remember Blackfish,
yes, I do.
Documentary that made so many people decide not to go to SeaWorld anymore or to any of these aquariums that were holding orcas hostage. So that's what we thought we were working on. And we were just shocked when they named it Tiger King. And then we saw what a crazy dumpster fire of a program it was.
Comedy icon Vicki Michelle is one of those stars who is prepared to talk common sense, even if the Woketopians don't like it. Here, she gives her take on the cancel culture mob and an inside look into her first reading of the 'Allo 'Allo script.
It seems to me that we've, because of your political views, then I'm not going to like you or I'm not going to allow you to do things. And I think that's completely wrong. Let people do what they want. This is a free country, or it was a free country.
Yeah, and let's tolerate both political views, because the thing that's very sad to me about the entertainment industry is that they're absolutely fine for you to be massively political if you're on the extreme left. But if you're even slightly right-wing, that they want to cancel you.
I know. Why? But if you put this out there and had a public vote, are we sick to death of what we're being dictated by? I'm sure that probably 80% of the country would go, yes, please stop it. Stop dictating to us. Stop, telling us who we should like, who we shouldn't like. And I'm not sure that, which side of the coin anyone is on. And I don't really care. I have my views and everyone else has their views, but just let people do what they want. It's become almost like we're not allowed to say anything. We're frightened. I think it's become, you're so frightened to say anything that you stop talking to people. You're frightened of saying the wrong thing, which makes even more of a distance between, factions or, it's very uncomfortable. And I think we need to laugh more. We need more comedy. We need to be able to laugh. They should bring back all of the shows that used to make us laugh out loud. I was when I was talking to your lady earlier when we were doing, she was talking about my views. Yeah. I said, now 2,000 seaters, you know, are being filled by comedians. You know, that didn't used to happen. You know, comedy shows are sold out because we're starved of comedy and we need it. We need to laugh more.
So Simon, via the GB News Twitter account, asks, when you initially received the script for Allo Allo, did you have any reservations?
No. It was one of the best scripts I'd read. I was given it and I started reading it, and there's not a lot of scripts that when you're reading it, you're laughing out loud. Yeah. I thought, this is an amazing script. Yeah. And I actually read for Yvette and Michelle of the Resistance. So both of those. And we didn't hear for 6 months because I think, yeah, they were a bit worried about the content and everything. Oh, ooh la la.
Looking good.
No, I didn't have any reservations. It was a great script, and I'm so proud to have been in a series that lasted, 10 years?
10 years, and that never happens with British comedy. With wokeism touching all areas of life at the moment, it might not be surprising that some of the UK's best-loved shows have given in to the pressure to conform. John Altman was a regular feature on the beloved show EastEnders, but when the BBC tried to turn his character gay, he says that was his cue to leave. There was this move towards woke when they wanted to make Nasty Nick gay. And what I really respect is that you actually stood up to the bosses and you said, no, I know my character. It's not that you were opposed to playing a gay character, just to be clear. It was nothing... Yeah, exactly. It was not about that. It was about the fact, and I agree with this, it didn't make any sense for Nasty Nick to become gay. There was nothing in his history that pointed to that.
Yeah, it was Nasty Nick and lovable Lofty, the pot man at the Queen Vic, and spreading around sometimes. And this got to me. I don't know how it got to me. So I went up to Julia just before it went any further. And I said, look, I have heard that you're going to make Nick and Lofty gay and they shack up together. I said, I don't think it's right because they weren't in the first place. And I don't think the viewers would appreciate it. And she said, well, I'll bear it in mind. But apparently when I left the table, she turned to one of the script writers and said, write him out.
No way! Now, you know, we've heard a lot of talk of an indie referendum too, and the scheming Nicola Sturgeon seems to be making this her #1 priority, despite polling showing that the majority of Scots don't see it as their main concern. In an interview with the radio legend Neil Fox, he explained the importance of the union to him and why he sees himself as British before anything else. Neil also opens up about how he coped with untrue accusations of sexual offences that went to trial.
I think what's lovely about Great Britain is that we benefit from having all those different parts of it. We benefit from their cultures, their histories, and if we break everything down, I just think we will lose more than we gain, and they will lose more than they will gain.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, but I'm English, right? But actually, I'm British. Totally. So I think of myself, I don't think of myself as necessarily English. I like to think of myself as British. And amazingly, I like to think of myself as European. I am a European. I just didn't necessarily want to be part of the European Union or it all got out of hand. So I think there are certain issues where people like to make everything black and white, but so often the real answer is it's a bit grey.
It was so brutal what happened, and of course you were completely cleared, entirely cleared, vindicated in court, but I don't know exactly what went on, but what felt so wrong to me is that you never went back to your old job on the radio, and that feels like there's no justice in that because, OK, personally, by the way, I don't think anyone should be sacked from a job until they're found guilty of something. You were taken off air, so I guess you were effectively suspended. Presumably they were still paying you, but you weren't able to actually do what you love to do. Then you were cleared. Well, surely you should be straight back. You should be in the job. I don't understand what happened.
Well, you would think that would sort of be common sense.
Well, well, it's not just common sense, it's justice.
Yeah, look, it became tough. And I think, as my QC said, you know, those kind of allegations and cases are toxic. And, of course, they don't just... As soon as you get cleared, getting cleared is a small part of the problem. And, in a way, you have to rebuild your life. But, you know, luckily I have a very supportive wife and family and what have you. And she actually taught me a lot because, you know, it's very true that... She was brilliant. And it's not just being a great supporting family or wife. It's giving you good advice. And I think the best advice for anyone that gets themselves in a bad situation is, look, sometimes life throws bad things at you that you can't control, but you totally can control how you react to it and respond to it.
Music industry heavyweight Don McLean, the man behind one of the world's biggest ever songs, graced our studio to talk about the impact American Pie has had on the music industry, with its record-breaking length chart success only recently beaten by Taylor Swift's All Too Well. He also gave me his take on how cancel culture is affecting the music industry. 50 years.
Yes.
Since the song that defined your life. Of course, not your only hit. There were a whole string of hits. But what's it like to have a song that most folk agree is one of the greatest ever written?
Well, I think the thing that really thrilled me was when they had that big list in the United States at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And they said it was number 5, along with Respect, This Land Is Your Land, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, White Christmas, and My Song. I don't think you would have to scrape me off the ceiling because these were songs I grew up with. And they're all, and it was just amazing. Since that time, I think the song has been sort of anointed. And so it's ended up in even bigger things than it used to be. But it always, in the publishing world, they say there are songs that have momentum. You know, they're like going downhill and picking up speed through the years, rather than most hits and most songs end up kind of fizzling out. So I have a couple of those. One is Vincent and the other is And I Love You So. And those three keep getting picked up and keep getting recorded. And, you know, I was part of a group of people in the early 1970s, late 60s, that kind of picked up where the major groups kind of dropped the ball for a couple of years and were disbanding. And they had this fabulous decade of the 1960s. And these singer-songwriters came along, you know, Jim Croce, who was a friend of mine, Harry Chapin, who was a friend of mine, John Denver, and a lot of others. And wrote some pretty good songs in there, kept it going for a few more years until disco really kicked in the mid to lates with the fantastic Bee Gees and the stuff that they did. And suddenly you went from selling 2 or 3 million records to the Bee Gees selling 28 million records. So I think the music business kind of peaked at that point. And golly, it's been going strong really ever since, but it's really been dance music.
Don't you also think, though, Don, and maybe there's reason for people, celebrities, to feel like this these days, they're so scared. They're scared to make a statement. They're scared to say what they really think.
Boy, you really told the truth there. The political correctness hides what people really think. So in the day, people said, oh, this is a lot like the 1960s. I said, no, it's not, because people said whatever they wanted to say, you know, and
were highly political in songs.
And ideas were batted back and forth and discussed and argued in an intellectual way, like you should on a college campus.
Now we shut down those discussions.
Comedians don't go on colleges anymore.
No, exactly.
They're afraid to.
Yeah.
Because they're going to offend somebody. And it's this taking of offense at everything. But see, I'm too old to cancel, so I don't really care.
You're uncancelable.
I am. I say whatever I want, and I don't work for anybody, so...
Someone like Ricky Gervais in this country, he says whatever he wants, and he doesn't care about because he can't be cancelled.
I still think that even he toes the line a little bit. He thinks about it. I mean, I do think he considers it. You have to, you know, because the weird thing is, like for me, like what I feel about what's happening right now. I mean, I feel like I could talk about it on stage because I'm established, but I also think, like, you know, if you're partners with the biggest streaming service in the world, and then if you also, you know, you're doing a commercial for this international company, and so you have to think, you know what, how much do I really want to rock the boat? So I do think that sometimes I think people forget that this is supposed to be an irritant. You are supposed to, as a comedian, you're supposed to be controversial. You're supposed to take the other side. You're supposed to get the audience to question their foundational thinking.
That ability to look away and let things be is a sign of maturity. And behind closed doors, and this is what the racism of law expectations is about, is with those Muslims, they're just not there yet. That's really what it boils down to.
That's a really interesting point as far as that. Is it this expectation that Muslims are likely to react violently if they're upset? That's a very patronising
because the Christians used to do that in the past. They're over it now.
Right.
They're old enough, they're mature enough, they're adults. The assumption is if you're a Muslim, a drawing of the Prophet Muhammad, whether it's flattering or not, is going to offend you. Can you look away?
Well, it's not necessarily true that all Muslims would be offended.
Well, first of all, it's not true.
Yeah.
That's again why I think it's a form of racism, and it's a form of, in itself, if you want to pursue the notion of Islamophobia, it is actually a form of phobia.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
The film and media industry were hit especially hard during the pandemic, with some sectors grinding to a halt, leaving many actors and industry workers out of a job. But as the world reopened, some level of normality has come back. Patsy Kensett told me all about her experience shooting her latest film and how coronavirus affected her. And I'm so glad to see that you've been able to star in these movies, actually, Renegades. I'm really excited about this one because I'm friends with Jonathan Southcott, who's one of the writers of the movie, and of course his lovely wife as well, who is your co-star in the film. Yeah, but did you film this whole thing during the pandemic?
Yeah, we did, and I did The Pebble and the Boy, and that was totally through COVID. And then I went on to do Renegades, and we were in the same situation. So they're very strict on. We had doing a flow test every day, and nobody got hurt, nobody caught the virus, so that was lucky. But yeah, and thinking back about it, that was quite confusing what we had to do.
Well, yeah, because let's be honest, I mean, your industry, Patsy, was just completely decimated. And the stories that I've heard, of people both on screen and off screen being left high and dry with no work whatsoever has been truly shocking.
It has been shocking. I think I was very blessed because I was able to work throughout it. now towards the year's ending, it's, it would be nice to know what I want to do next and what I'm going on to. And so I think COVID may have caught up a little bit in how my life is. But obviously people are suffering, losing the things, losing jobs. It's very sad.
Yeah, well, I read, for example, that you were due to film a big new TV drama with Martin Kemp, and that has now been put on hold because of COVID.
Yeah, that's right. And I was meant to be shooting a movie with Gerard Depardieu, actually, but at the moment, and that's been pushed till next year. So it's, it's heartbreaking, but you just got to push on through and it will be fine.
You do, but Patsy, I just sometimes feel like arts, entertainment, theatre, music, it's been the forgotten industry during this pandemic. And the problem is with all of the people who work in this industry, you're not getting the money from the government because obviously you're freelancers. It's not a regular job.
No, that's right. I think, look, landing any part, you're really lucky to get the role because there are 2,000 other people coming behind you that want it. So I'm in an industry that is based on rejection. So you kind of get toughened to this stuff. But having said that, I'm very excited about Renegades.
Right said, Freds. I'm Too Sexy is one of those songs that it will just never be forgotten, right? The brothers sat down with me to chat about the impact that hit has had, and they also gave their take on Drake's revamped rendition of the 1991 tune. I presume at the very least this is going to make you a lot of money, a big moolah, because you are credited as writers on this track and Drake is the biggest artist in the world.
Yeah. Yes, we think, first of all, we should say we like the version. I think it's great. It's a minor key version. It's a bit more. Our version was more sort of seaside postcard kind of version. A bit like that, wasn't it? A bit like that, a bit sort of Chaz and Davey in a way. I really like that. Nothing wrong with Chaz and Davey. I like Chaz and Davey. What he's done, it's more sexual. Basically. Yes, it's a lot more sexual. And darker. But I like his sense of humour, the weights and all that kind of stuff. I think that's funny. I like it. We heard the demo, because we had to give approval, so we heard the demo in about May or June, so we knew what was coming. But I think it's a really good version. Yeah, I think it's good, yeah.
OK, brilliant. No, I think it's very good as well. And, of course, you were credited on that big Taylor Swift song as well, weren't you? Yes. So very good. The modern artists, they love you guys. Sarah Palin was a highly controversial US political figure as the running mate for Republican nominee John McCain, regularly becoming a punchline in the mainstream media. But 13 years on, her place in history is being re-evaluated. We discuss that as she joined me from Alaska. Would you have made a better VP than Kamala Harris?
Oh, yeah. No question.
I agree. I agree. Look, I want to go back a little bit with you, Governor Palin, because there's a bit of a re-evaluation happening about the way that you were treated by the mainstream media when you were running. And I want to play you a fascinating interview with Meghan McCain. Meghan is, of course, the daughter of John McCain. You were the running mate of her father. She was very tough on you after the election, but she's changed her mind. Have a listen to what she said to Sean Hannity last week.
I have a whole new lens of viewing how Sarah Palin was treated and how the people working for my father's campaign really, in my opinion, treated her really horribly, set her up for failure. I think when you're seeing Katie Couric talking about how Ruth Bader Ginsburg is someone she helped look good, I thought, well, obviously, with her book, and I thought that obviously she probably put Sarah Palin in a position to look bad. And by the way, Nicole Wallace was the person who facilitated that interview, who now has a show on MSNBC. And I just, as I've gotten older, look, I fell in love with a really deeply conservative man who runs the Federalist. I have gotten older. It's like the old adage, if you're not liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not conservative when you're old, you don't have a brain. And I just really hope that the culture has some redemption for Sarah Palin in the same way that we have for so many other women right now.
Your reaction to that, Governor Palin, it was quite a statement.
Well, I have to admit that I really appreciate that. I appreciate her recognition of, there was unfairness But it wasn't about me. I think it is the attacks on me were about what I represent, because I represent a typical hardworking, independent, patriotic American woman who does not want government on my back. I want it on my side. I do not want faceless, nameless bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. and politicians who think they know better to tell me how to run my businesses, how to raise my children, how to educate my children.
No, of course.
So,
of course, but
I represent, he did attack.
But you weren't even invited to John McCain's funeral. I mean, it was extraordinary how they treated you.
Well, that was hurtful, and it was shocking. But one of the last conversations I had with Senator McCain, and we kept in touch, he again apologized for those who ran the campaign, Nicole Wallace, Steve Schmidt. They're not good characters, you know, as evidenced by what it is that they unfairly do to others. But, you know, we're taught in God's word, in the Bible, that we are not to take upon ourselves as a burden to vindicate ourselves, that in due time, there's a season for everything. In due time, truth will prevail, truth will be revealed. And I think more of that will come out, because here's the deal, Dan. What disappointed me was there was no, there was invalidation for not only what I represent, but my job as a governor, as a mayor, as a city manager, as an oil and gas commissioner, as a sports reporter, all these things that I worked very, very hard to do.
Yeah, but you weren't part of the political establishment. And they don't like it if you're not part of the political establishment. And I think that's what Trump changed. But that's why I think you helped lay the groundwork for that sea change. Harry and Meghan's antics this year, from the Oprah interview filled with porcupines to the courtroom apology for forgetting facts, have seen even their most ardent fans question their credibility. Well, no one knows the Duchess of Sussex better than her father, Thomas Markle, who opened up to me in this world-exclusive interview.
I'm worried that Harry is going to harm his family. You have to understand, the way I feel right now is that Harry and Meghan have harmed so many people, and so many. They've harmed the entire royal family. They've harmed my family. They've harmed Doria's family. They've harmed the English people. They've gone out of their way to harm people. It makes no sense. I don't know what they do or what they're doing. They seem to keep to themselves where they're living now, and they must have the worst PR team in the world.
That's for sure. Well, I think they do it themselves, don't they? They don't listen to advice, Thomas.
Well, well, the other thing is, like Oprah Winfrey. They made Oprah Winfrey look like a fool. They lied to her about 13 times.
Yeah, but she didn't press them. She didn't press them, and it's a journalist's job to seek the truth, and she didn't try and seek the truth. She accepted the propaganda.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I think she sat there quietly and nodded her head approvingly. It was crazy.
I've also got to know Meghan's sister Samantha Markle over the years, who opened up about her troubled relationship with her royal sibling. Do you still love your sister Meghan?
It's really hard to love somebody who has caused so much pain to so many people, especially our dad, through 2 heart attacks, and watching her do this to the royals. You know, I always said I could unconditionally love anybody, especially family. But God, do you know, your neighbor comes through your house and runs you over while you're on the couch. Do you still have fluffy feelings? Do you still like your neighbor? I mean, how can I know? I can't say I can love somebody who is so unbelievably cruel. You know, can I forgive? Can we forgive? Yeah, but I mean, I think it would take another 40 years to rebuild that, or to be able to get to the point where we could say, or where I could say that I love her. So I have to say no, I don't.
Why would you say someone's been married 3 times, had
3 children from 3 different men. Why would you purposely make someone out to look of ill repute and dodgy in a book that goes into history as a royal biography? My God, that is defamatory, and I didn't deserve that, and I don't think that I should go down in history as what she wanted to paint of me as some sort of revenge.
He went from being America's mayor after 9/11 to one of the most significant players in the Trump administration, and one of the most polarizing too. US political firebrand Rudy Giuliani joined me to discuss the state of US politics, his time working with Trump, why he featured in that controversial Borat sequel, and what happened with that sweaty black dye incident. Sacha Baron Cohen. Now, he's obviously a very famous British comedian, and you were a big feature of his sequel to Borat.
Yeah, they completely edited it.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, he implied that you had acted inappropriately in some way.
I did not at all act inappropriately. He did. In fact, he ran away. During that, when I became aware of what he was doing and the document, I called the police. And he ran down the street in his robe, and he ran away. Okay. I'm so sorry for that. It was a completely doctored film. I had no idea that what they were doing, and they actually doctored the film even after they shot it. And I called the police on him. He didn't call the police on me.
So why not
ran
sue?
Away.
Why not sue?
Because I'm a public figure, and to sue in the United States as a public figure, it's almost impossible to win. You have to prove deliberate lying. If he can say in any way that he made a mistake, it would be impossible. That's why Donald Trump doesn't sue. That's why, and that's why those people that are suing us are going to lose their case. Yeah, they're really doing it.
It's not worth it.
Not so much to win a case.
I agree with that. And the great thing about America is you can say what you think, and people can believe you. And watch the film and judge for themselves. Now, the second one, Rudy, this image went all around the world. People were saying, is your face melting during this press conference? Do you remember this? The makeup or what was happening? Was it hair dye? I feel for you because it looked very hot.
It was I'm not used to wearing makeup, and it was very warm. And see, there you go. It was very, and I think I began sweating, and that was also at a time that I was kind of sick, I think. It was around the time I was getting sick.
Didn't you?
I don't remember exactly, but it was, I mean, I didn't know it was happening when it was happening.
Yeah. No, I feel for you. I feel for you about that.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah, no, of course.
That was during a COVID scare.
And finally, Rudy, it is the question we all want to know. Has Donald Trump told you if he is going to run again? Because if you look at the polls in all of the swing states, he's well ahead of President Biden in a fantasy matchup.
Well, he hasn't told himself that yet. I mean, so I'll tell you exactly what his state of mind is. I think it's pretty. I think he's a very open guy, so I think it's pretty accurate what he's saying. Maybe I can help you this way. If the election were held right now, today, I have no doubt he'd run. I don't know if he would say that. I'm telling you that. I would say that, assuming that he feels up to it, and right now he's in tremendous health, assuming that the family is all okay with it, I would say the odds are that he will do it.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin.